What's up, folks? It's your boy ProTech Sean, and today we have a review of the Lenovo Legion 9 iGen 9. Now, this is one of the most expensive laptops that I've ever purchased, and this motherfucker was on sale. Now, we'll talk about the price in a minute, but why did I buy this? Why did I go out my way to get this? Well, one reason was that it was on sale at a massive discount, and I'm putting quotes around that. And the second reason is I've never had a graphics card this powerful. So I'm going to put this slab through the test or through the motions and let you know if it's worth your time and definitely your money. Stick with me for a minute. Let's get it. Now, the unboxing of this is pretty normal, and I'll put a clip in here to show you guys what it looks like until I saw the contents. It was well packaged, don't get me wrong, and the laptop itself was double boxed and secure. Now, what I don't prefer is getting my products with the box showing the contents because it can draw in thieves if somebody saw it sitting on my porch. But to Lenovo's defense, they required a signature and I couldn't change it. And I took a sick day from work in order to receive it. So I hope none of my coworkers are peeping this shit. Inside the main box was a smaller box that contained the laptop itself and two other boxes that contained two different power bricks. Yes, I said two different power bricks. One 140 watt USB-C with the Mickey Mouse looking power cable, and the other one a way heavier 330 watt power brick with the normal three-prong power cable. At first I was confused, but then I thought for a minute, what if I wanted to take this laptop out and about or on a work trip and didn't plan on gaming? Then I would much prefer the smaller, lighter power brick. And that's exactly what they provided us. So in my opinion, that's pure genius. Because now I can't complain about the huge power brick that I've got with some other laptops that were powerful just with a 4080. But in this option, in this version, they give me two options. So good on you, Lenovo. Outside of that, the only other thing that they put in the box is something that I've seen before, and it's this nicely made key replacement tool and different color keys to kind of personalize my keyboard. It also comes with a white cleaning rag. And again, it's a nice touch because this and the power bricks are already making me feel like maybe a laptop this expensive ain't that bad when they add all of the extras in it. But before I jump to conclusions, let's jump into these specs. Now, this beast has the Intel Core i9 14th Gen 14900HX, 32 gigabytes of RAM, DDR5, and two 1 terabyte SSDs. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090 with Optimus. And this is the first laptop that I've ever had with liquid cooling in it. So, we'll see about that. A 1080p full HD camera with dual microphones and an electronic privacy shutter. A fingerprint reader on the power button. Full, as you can see, full RGB lighting on a keyboard and around the chassis. And last but not least, the star of the show, the 16-inch mini LED 165 Hertz display with 100% Adobe RGB and 100% DCI-P3 that gets up to a blistering 1200 nits. Now, originally, this laptop, and I'm talking price for a minute, originally this laptop was listed at $4,400 before taxes. But me, myself, and trying to get coupon codes and all of that, I got it for $2,900 before taxes, $3,200 after taxes. And to be honest, that kind of validates the purchase if you're thinking about spending that much money at one time anyway on a laptop. And not just because of the sale price, but because of the sale price and all of the extras that they packed with this thing. Lenovo, in my opinion, always adds extras to their laptops. They've been doing it since I purchased my first one a few years ago. They always had more than normal RAM, in this case 32 gigabytes instead of the normal 16, and hard drive space, or SSDs, in this case 2 terabytes, when I'm normally seeing 512 or at the higher end 1 terabyte compared to their counterparts. And I'm glad they didn't cheap out this time. All of this comes wrapped in this nice aluminum chassis, which is what they've been doing. Now, look, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and no diddy, I'm giddy like a schoolgirl about getting to see how this thing performs to see if I want to keep it. But before we get into all of that, let's talk about the construction size and weight. Now, this is a big boy at 16 inches. Pause. But that's what I was expecting. It's about 6 pounds without the power bricks, depending on which one you're using. And other than that, its construction is almost like its previous models, which I like. It sits firmly on the table. It doesn't move. And I love the fact that they put most of the ports in the rear in that junk in the trunk, or what I used to call junk in the trunk lip that they have back there. Now, Alienware and MSI does the same things with some of their models. And I love it because it allows the laptop to look neat while sitting on your desk and not look like an octopus with cables flared out of the side. Even right now, I actually have it plugged in. And you can't even see the cable unless you're looking over there because I forgot to tuck it away. And speaking of ports, this is about as good as it gets with your options. On the right side, you have the camera privacy switch, a USB-C, and way in the back that I almost missed, a USB-A port. And on your left side, you have a full HD card slot. I know some of these companies like to skimp with the micro SD card slot, and I don't know why, but here, in this case, you have a full SD card slot and the headphone microphone combo jack. Now, on the back end, or what I used to call on the ass end, is where all the goodness lies, and it gets interesting. Pause. You have an Ethernet jack, another USB-A port, 2 Thunderbolt ports, an HDMI port, and a power input. I love that they put most of the ports in the back, like I said before, but the one thing that I love the most is that they're labeled and the labeling lights up. From my previous experience with Lenovo though, this is only a feature in their higher end models. If you get any other the lower end models, they'll be labeled, but they won't light up. But I still like the labeling because when I'm fishing, trying to fish out, well, where I want to connect for, in this case, my power cable, where I wanted to connect that, I don't have to fish around because the power input is labeled and I know around where it is, and it makes it easy for me to just slap it in there. Pause. On top of the display, you do have a camera that doesn't have Windows Hello, but does have Tobii functionality, if I'm saying that correctly. And I'll cover that in the display section. Other than that, the hinge feels solid and smooth and sticky. And the screen flex, just like I showed you before, is rock solid also. Last but not least is the fingerprint reader. Now, it doesn't hold, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be completely honest with y'all, it does not hold a candle to any of my MacBooks, or the MacBooks, like I got multiple, to my MacBook or my Apple keyboard. Okay, let's just get that out the way. All right, it works, but you have to hit it just right. Pause. Cool thing about the power button and the fingerprint reader is that it informs you of the current mode it's in. Red is for performance, blue is silent, which you see currently right now, and then white is automatically, where it automatically switches from quiet to high performance mode depending on what you're trying to do with it. I do love the RGB elements. I kind of missed that in my previous laptops, in the very front and on the rear, just over the ports. Nice touches all around. The only thing that I'll beat up on the construction of these is these funky ass stickers that they put on here. Now, you can peel them off if you want, but with this sort of kind of rubber type texture, it makes it hard to clean off without scraping the chassis. So just be careful if you decide to do that. And Lenovo and every other company that does this, you don't have to put stickers here for me. I know what's in the inside. It's the reason I purchased it. Those stickers aren't for me though, if you think about it. It's for whoever's looking at you working on your laptop. So it's like free advertisements, not on my watch. So these are coming off. Overall, the construction is great for a laptop of this size. The only thing, or the one other only thing that I do not like, is this ugly ass 80s type wallpaper skin that they put on the top. What is this? Ew, brother, ew. What's that? Is that how you say it? All right, I hope I didn't offend nobody. But it looks like that fake ass marble that they put on furniture at those cheap hood furniture spots like American Freight. It's textured and it doesn't hold any fingerprints, so that's a good thing. But my only wish is this could be peeled off and I could put my own skin on. But other than that, you have the Lenovo tab and the Legion right here that lights up. It looks like, kind of looks like glass when it's not lit up. And these are also great touches, but I can't stand this. What is this? Now, before I get to all the good stuff, let's talk about these guts. Now, on the inside of the Legion 9i, and I'll pull up another pic, you have 3 cooling fans. But because all of the other components are covered with this thin plastic cover, I assume it's for heat, you can't see the actual liquid cooling piping, nor the GPU and CPU chips. And I don't want to void my warranty by removing it, so I kind of left it there. So this is all y'all got to see. One thing that I did notice is the RAM is soldered to the board. Now, normally I would whine and bitch about this because they did jump off the deep end, but because they did jump off the deep end and gave us 32 gigabytes of RAM right off the bat, it gets a pass. You can, however, swap out the SSDs as those slots are exposed just enough so you can get in there and remove the heatsink and swap them out. Now, I normally keep my games on an external SSD. As you can see here, keep it on one of these. But if I were to keep this laptop, I'll probably move my games from this to the laptop, or just fill that other motherfucker up with more games instead of deleting games. You know how y'all do. But other than that, that's the guts. Now let's talk about why, one of the main reasons I purchased this laptop, right? And that's the mini LED display. Now, my only other experience with mini LED displays is my iPad Pro from a few years ago. The difference between the two is this is a matte display versus a shiny reflective display like the iPad. But all in all, I have two words for this display, and they are, it's outstanding. It's eye-watering bright, crisp, and even though they say it's 3.2K, my eyes can't tell the difference. At 3200 by 2000, it's just as pixel dense as my iPad, which is about as crisp as you can get before you start getting to the laws of diminishing returns. It's just that great. At 165 hertz, it's smooth, crisp, as I said before, and the HDR pops. But I believe, and this is just my opinion, because the display is not glass reflective, it doesn't have that tiny little bit of extra pop that you get from a reflective display. But you really wouldn't notice the difference unless you have them side by side. So in my opinion, don't do that shit. Even though this is a mini LED display, the blacks are still deep as hell, or deep AF. And unless you have this thing in a dark room and looking for it, it doesn't have that bleed over when you see contrasting colors like white letters on a black background moving around when they're presented. So it is well controlled. Way better than a normal IPS display though. Way better. Which begs the question, in the future, and in other laptops, because I see all these laptops popping up with OLED displays, would you rather have a mini LED that gets you almost to that point of individual pixels lighting up, or this one? Right? With this one, I don't have to worry about burning. With this one, it probably can get a little brighter than the OLED. Something to think about. The only other thing that's missing to a pixel peeper like me is that 10% extra pop that I spoke about before, because it's not a shiny display. But again, I'm gonna give it a pass because I don't always have these things lined up next to each other. Like I experienced with the G14's OLED display, playing games on this mini LED display is just as enjoyable. Almost like playing AAA games on a great display like my iPad or an Apple Studio display or a 4K OLED TV. Just that good. Now, the viewing angles are good and on par with other LCD LED displays, but don't expect it to get that near 180 degree viewing angle like an OLED. That's just wishful thinking. That's where OLED makes its money at. Moving on. Now, the keyboard is still top notch. And I've said it in almost every video I've made that I prefer Lenovo's and Alienware's keyboards over anybody. Argue with your mama. And that's par for the course here. If it wasn't broke, you don't have to fix it. They're nice, spongy, with good key travel. And the only thing that I haven't really mentioned that could possibly push this keyboard over to the #1 spot that I'm just noticing is the shape of the keys. The keys are very slightly curved in versus flat to make for a better fit for your fingers. Now, this is minimal, but in my opinion, extremely effective and makes for a more comfortable typing experience. I can feel the difference between the typing on my Apple keyboard versus my Lenovo's. Like on my Apple keyboard, it's like typing on the ground. Laugh if you want. It just feels more comfortable. The per key lighting though is bright with nearly no bleed from key to key. I also love that they squeezed the number pad in there, even though it's a little bit squished, but it's there. One extra thing that I love about the implementation of this keyboard is Lenovo makes it easy to get to shortcuts by lighting up the buttons that are shortcuts when you press the function key. Whoop! Look at that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now, just over the keyboard is a huge perforated space that I thought were speakers. Come to find out, it's just venting, which is massive compared to what I've seen before. But with a laptop of this power, I understand. It is highly functional in my opinion, but there are some collateral damages for having this much venting on the top of the keyboard, even though it's probably needed. And that's the trackpad, right? This big space here ruined the trackpad. Now, don't get me wrong. It feels great. And I've always said that trackpads on gaming laptops, are pretty useless, but they have to be there. What else you going to put there? That's what I think Lenovo thinks. They think that you're not going to worry about this trackpad being off-centered and small. Like I said before, it is smooth and has minimal creaking, and it could be tighter in the chassis. Pause. But I think at the placement, but look at the placement and the size. This trackpad should be on a 13-inch laptop, as it was basically an afterthought. It almost looked like the trackpad on my Apple keyboard for my iPad. I'm not complaining because the only reason I use this is to film this video and do very minor like word processing, but that's about it, right? I'm using it to film this video. That's about it. But if you're getting this to solely use the trackpad, don't. Do yourself a favor, get your cheap ass mouse and be satisfied. Now, the speakers are great or are not great. let me not get ahead of myself. The speakers are not great, but they are better than good. Now, you can definitely hear the separation between the two, or between the two speakers on each side, left and right, and some bass, and they do get relatively loud. I mean, they are by Harman, which has been a monster in the business for a long time, so it's expected. I just wish it had a tad more treble. I don't think we'll ever see speakers implemented and perform in laptops like on the MacBook Pro. Never. The MacBook Pro has been dominating laptop speakers for so long, these other manufacturers just bowed out the game. It's just like teams in the 80s and 90s when Jordan was dominating, taking their lunch, right? Just wait till he retires and then get your championship. He proved that between the 94 and 95 seasons when he temporarily retired. But we're going to say that argument for another day. So if you loving LeBron, I do too. I just think there's only one GOAT, and I'll leave it at that and leave you to guess. Moving on. When it comes to battery life, buddy, don't do it to yourself. I say it in every video. I don't test battery life on gaming laptops, and that's why I put this little portion in the video to let you guys know that I didn't forget. Now, this is a 1200 nit display and an RTX 4090. You can hear the fans going right now, and it's on silent, right? And just to let you guys know, it doesn't bother me. It's really low. It's just as loud as the ceiling fan that I have that you can't hear, but I can. But if you try to game on this thing on battery and you have everything at max, you're going to get about 20 to 30 minutes tops. So stop with the madness and plug this shit in or take a break until you're able to. Moving on. Now, before we get to the performance, let me talk about a feature that's been around for a while but never seems to break through, and that's Tobii. Tobii is an eye tracking software that I first encountered on the Alienware R15 from a few years ago. It enabled me to basically move the screen with my eyes instead of or along with the controller or the mouse. It was a great concept, but I really didn't think it was all that at the time. Plus, it kind of made me dizzy. And I got hit up by Tobii for that. They actually offered to send me some games to try out, but I never did follow up on it because the laptop I didn't keep for that long. But the way Lenovo uses this and the way it's implemented now brings it to a whole level of usefulness and adds some added security. Using the camera, you can track your eyes when you're not looking, or it can track your eyes when you're not looking at or away from the display. And when you do that, it'll blur and lock if it doesn't see you until it sees you again. The viewing angles is pretty wide, might I add. I can be almost at 180 degrees and it'll know that I'm still there. Taking it one step further, though, and the feature that I love the most, and one of my favorite features, is if I'm at like Starbucks or in a library and someone tries to look at my display over my shoulder without me knowing, trying to steal my information, it'll detect that peeper and blur the screen. Now I got to turn around and find out who the hell is looking at my screen while I'm looking at my screen trying to steal my information. Now, this is invaluable in today's society of identity theft and stealing information without you knowing. And I think I said it in my other videos before. Nobody looks at my porn when I'm looking at my porn. I'm just playing. Now, you can still do those traditional things that Tobii did in the past, just not as much, right? You can still do the screen dim when you're not looking. You can still do smart framing, a lot like the iPad and iPhones do. When you move around, it moves around with you for video conferences, showing your distance from the screen for eye health, and reminding you that you've been on too long by showing you your actual screen time. All useful and great options. So even though it's not used in a lot of laptops, I believe Tobii should be in more machines, and that's just me being honest. So I guess me and Tobii, the company Tobii, or whatever the name of the company is, we actually made up. Now, I've said it before, there is no laptop that I've reviewed to compare this to, because this is the most powerful laptop that I've ever had. But I did have a desktop, the Alienware Aurora R15 with the 4090. So I'll compare it to that. Yeah. I know, right? I know it shouldn't be a real competition, but this allows me to see how close the laptop compares to the desktop version of the same card. So ride with me for a minute. And as you can see, the mobile version of the 4090 is about 60% of the performance of the desktop version. That actually that actually sounds worse than what it is. So let me put it this way. It's 20% better than the performance of a desktop 3080. I've had a 3080 before, right? Another R15 3080 before, and I was more than satisfied with the performance, and I always played in 4K because my display at the time was a 4K LG C2 42 inch, and I never had a problem pumping it at full max capacity. Pause. Now, how that translates to real world gaming because of the specs on this laptop, I don't know, right? The only thing that would keep this machine from great performance is heat, and that was probably solved with the liquid cooling implementation. But let's see. As you can see, once again, the performance is outstanding, and with the 4090, I expected nothing less, especially on a 3.2K display. But even when I compared this or connected this to my 4K OLED TV, performance was still outstanding with DLSS Super Resolution activated. So I'm giving it an A in this category. Not an A+, but just an A. The liquid cooling inside this machine that we can't see kept the temps at a very acceptable level. Even when I played Spider-Man for almost 4 hours straight, taking small breaks, but never exiting out of the game, temps never rose above 80 to 85 degrees on a GPU or CPU. And that's me stretching it. So no doubt this machine can handle long sessions with no issues. And if you go longer than 4 hours without taking an extended break, you probably need an intervention. And buddy, look at the camera. This is it. So is the Legion 9i Gen 9 worth this price? And it's rare that I say that anything over $3,000 is worth its price unless it's a car, for some outrageous ass price on a car. But I'm going to have to say yes in this case. If it was the original price of $4,200 before taxes, then I'd be like, nah, I'm good. But if you crave high performance, good looks, great build with the exception of that ugly ass skin, new technology with Tobii, the liquid cooling, the key replacement tool, and smaller extra power brick, then this is the laptop for you. So if you had your eye on something that's close in this price range, that probably had lower specs, honestly, I recommend you waiting and saving a few extra chips and dip to get this laptop that will have outstanding performance and will last you quite a few years. And so I'm putting my stamp of approval on this. And no, Lenovo did not pay me to say that or do this video. I ain't that big yet, as y'all can tell with my number of subscribers. Just saying. That's all I have, folks. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like the vibe. Y'all stay safe, stay healthy, and stay out of trouble. Deuces.